Welcome to NTD Newsroom. I'm Don Ma. The White House is now monitoring the tragic shooting at a Catholic school this morning in Minneapolis, where multiple children were hurt and 2 were killed. President Trump says more action on crime is coming. He's working with congressional leaders on a new crime bill. A trade clash with India. President Trump's tariffs just kicked in at midnight, doubling duties on many imports as Washington pressures New Delhi over its oil ties to Russia. An economist weighs in. The Transportation Department plans to assume management of Washington, D.C.'s Union Station. The move follows President Trump's deployment of the National Guard. Google is investing $9 billion into Virginia's artificial intelligence infrastructure. As part of the funding, students will have access to AI tools and education. What's in a logo? Cracker Barrel will go back to its old logo following a public outcry over a new logo unveiled last week. We discussed this with analysts. President Trump will chair a Gaza war meeting today at the White House. Meanwhile, Israeli tanks push into a new area on the edge of Gaza City.
This is NTD Newsroom, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
Thanks for joining us this afternoon. Tragedy and heartbreak rippling through a Minneapolis community over a Catholic school shooting. 2 children were killed and 17 others were injured. President Trump and Vice President Vance have confirmed the White House has been briefed and are monitoring the situation.
And the amount of pain that they are suffering right now is extraordinary. And don't just say this is about thoughts and prayers right now. These kids were literally praying. It was the first week of school. They were in a church. These are kids that should be learning with their friends. They should be playing on the playground. They should be able to go to school or church in peace without the fear or risk of violence, and their parents should have the same kind of assurance.
Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey condemned the violence along with Minneapolis Police Chief Brian O'Hara. The chief said dozens of children were inside Annunciation Catholic School for a worship service. O'Hara said the gunman shot from outside the building through windows. An 8- and 10-year-old were killed. 17 others were hurt. 14 of them are children, 2 of which are in critical condition. Hennepin County Medical Center reports that victims as young as 6 years old were rushed to its hospital. O'Hara said the suspect took his own life and only described him as in his early 20s with no extensive criminal record.
I know what gunfire sounds like, and I could tell. I was shocked. I said there's no way that could be gunfire. There was so much of it. So it was sporadic. It was a semi-automatic. It seemed like a rifle.
It breaks my heart, makes me sick to my stomach, knowing that there's probably people I know that are either injured or maybe they were even killed. It doesn't make me feel safe at all at this community that I've been a part of for so long.
President Trump said Americans can expect more action on crime. The president said today he is working with House Speaker Mike Johnson and Senate Majority Leader John Thune on a comprehensive crime bill. Trump wrote it's what the country needs on Truth Social. President Trump federalized the Washington, D.C. police force earlier this month. He has also floated expanding the presence of National Guard troops in high-crime cities like Baltimore and Chicago. Trump has also ordered the Department of Defense to ensure that every state has some emergency National Guard troops prepared, ready to rapidly mobilize to help quell civil disturbances and assist in public safety. The Transportation Department has announced plans to manage Washington, D.C.'s Union Station. The move follows safety concerns from the Trump administration about one of the country's biggest rail hubs.
Again, I think the president has been pretty clear on what he wants for a Union Station, for American travel, for train travel. He wants Union Station to be beautiful again. He wants transit to be safe again, and he wants our nation's capital to be great again. And today is part of that.
CEO of Amtrak, Stephen Gardner, stepped down in March. The plan comes amid President Trump's decision to deploy National Guard troops to D.C. Trump has also taken control of the Metropolitan Police Department over the objections of some local leaders. The president argues the deployment is necessary to deter violent crime in the nation's capital. National Guard troops continue to patrol busy areas, including Union Station. 5 new Amtrak trains will begin service today between Washington, D.C., New York, and Boston. The first next-generation Acela train departed from Washington Union Station with a top speed of 160 miles per hour. It features free high-speed Wi-Fi, individual USB ports, power outlets, and reading lights. Fares for one-way business class travel between D.C. and New York cost about $500 for this Friday. President Trump has ordered the establishment of a special National Guard unit aimed at tackling crimes across the country. Do Americans support the move? NTD's Sam Wong was out on the National Mall in D.C. to hear from the people.
What are your thoughts on President Trump's decision to send in the National Guards to D.C. and federalize the D.C. law enforcement?
I'm for it. I wish they had it in St. Louis, Missouri.
I would be for it, no matter who was in office.
It's actually crazy because it's just like, you know, you shouldn't be terrorizing your own people. You shouldn't be walking around feeling fear, you know. Like, this is our country, you know. We're not the threat.
It doesn't ever hurt. It's not anything bad. It's not like they're, you know, like causing a problem with the average person. They're just keeping people safe.
I'll put it this way. We're walking down on the other side, and there's maybe 30 National Guard doing gardening. And go from there. You make your own decision.
And do you think this is necessary for perhaps some of the less safe areas in D.C.?
Possibly.
They're here to protect the monuments and also getting these criminals off the street. They seem very peaceful and quiet, and they're in groups. They're not hassling anyone or anything like that. So I believe it's a good thing.
President Trump called for the creation of a special unit that is basically designed to tackle crimes across American cities. What are your thoughts on that?
That I support. That I definitely support, because in a lot of these areas, crime's getting a little out of hand, and people are kindness isn't there as well, and there has to be some sort of structure.
It feels like we're targeting cities on purpose instead of just trying to solve everywhere, you know? Because Chicago and Baltimore and places like that aren't the only places with crime.
There's a lot of red states that have a lot of high crime rates. Well, you think about Little Rock, Arkansas, and all these places. So why are we not mobilizing to these spaces as well?
We need it in St. Louis.
Agree.
Definitely need it.
Agree.
It's crime-ridden. And we hear gunshots all the time.
Yeah.
And there was a guy carjacked alongside our building. He was shot. He wouldn't give him his car. And there was a guy laying dead in the street, about a year and a half ago.
I think our National Guard is capable of doing what they do. I don't think you need a special unit. I mean, if it's a certain area, like if you want to do right here in D.C., I could understand it.
I guess we should clean up what we have to clean up. If this catch and release with no bail and all of that is happening, you know, who's paying for this but the American citizens, right?
In the Middle East, Israeli tanks pushed into a new area on the edge of Gaza City overnight. The move comes ahead of an expected meeting on the way to be chaired by President Trump today. Here's Special Envoy Steve Witkoff speaking on Fox News yesterday.
Yes, we've got a large meeting in the White House tomorrow, chaired by the president, and it's a very comprehensive plan we're putting together on the next day that I think many people are going to be, they're going to see how robust it is and how well-meaning it is.
Witkoff says Israel is open to continuing discussions with the Hamas terror group. He says Jerusalem has indicated they have accommodations to make if Hamas decides to make them. Tanks late yesterday entered a neighborhood on the northern edge of Gaza City. Residents say they shelled houses, wounding several people. Israel says it's preparing to launch a new offensive in Gaza City, calling it Hamas's last bastion. Around half of the enclave's 2 million people currently live there. An IDF spokesperson said evacuating Gaza City is inevitable. He said Israel is working to bring tents into the enclave for residents to stay in. President Trump says he's ready to impose tough economic sanctions on Russia if President Putin won't agree to a ceasefire. And his special envoy Steve Witkoff says Moscow has already put forward a peace proposal. though it's one Ukraine may find hard to accept. Here's Trump.
I want to see that deal end. It's very serious what I have in mind if I have to do it, but I want to see it end. We have economic sanctions. I'm talking about economic, because we're not going to get into a world war.
The Russians have put a peace proposal on the table. It involves Donetsk. It may not be something that the Ukrainians can take, but no one's ever made that kind of progress here.
Witkoff says he will meet Ukrainian representatives this week in Washington. He says only President Zelensky can ultimately decide whether to accept a deal, and that Ukraine wants strong security guarantees. Russia's latest offer would freeze current battle lines in the south, while demanding Kyiv give up more land in the east. Analysts warn fighting is still intense, with both sides suffering heavy losses. The federal government is asking the Supreme Court to suspend a court order that is preventing it from freezing billions in foreign aid. Even though an appeals court sided with President Trump earlier this month in the case, a lower court decision requiring the money to be spent remains in effect. Unless the Supreme Court intervenes, the administration said in its filing yesterday that the decision will force the government to hand over $12 billion in foreign aid funds. The Trump administration is asking the High Court to weigh in by next week. And Cracker Barrel says it will scrap its new logo after fierce backlash from customers and public figures. The restaurant chain posted on X yesterday thanking guests for sharing their voices and announcing the old-timer logo would remain. The brief rebrand removed the image of the farmer known as Uncle Herschel, leaning on a barrel, replacing it with just the company name. The company had been using the old logo since 1969. Some critics, including Florida Congressman Brian Donalds, framed the redesign as a woke move and a break with tradition. President Trump also weighed in, urging Cracker Barrel to reverse course and later congratulating them for doing so. The logo switch cost the company on Wall Street, with shares falling around 4%, but they rebounded back yesterday after the company reversed course. Despite the headlines, Cracker Barrel says it remains focused on serving up delicious food and country hospitality. And joining us now to discuss Cracker Barrel's latest move to keep its old logo following public criticism is Tim Dozier, Executive Director at Unleash Prosperity Now. Tim, it's always great to see you. So in your view, why did this initial logo change evoke such reactions?
You know, it's funny because you take a look at this, and it's just a logo change. I mean, how could this possibly be a big deal? But then you think about what the restaurant industry has been in and through since COVID, and that is the customer tends to be always wrong at this point. Anybody that can tell you that goes out to eat has a much different restaurant experience than they did before COVID. And that is typically, worse service, more expensive, they get the food order wrong, all these things that make it going out to eat frustrating. And I think that, this logo change, it has something to do probably with maybe the go woke, go broke mentality. But I also think that there is pent up frustration for old classic restaurants like Cracker Barrel changing their tune. And we're definitely seeing that. And by the way, I'll just say this, kudos to them for listening to the customer and actually saying, hey, you know what, customer, you are always right.
So Tim, what do you think here? How much does customer loyalty depend on, the outside branding versus the product itself?
I think it's all the above. I mean, I don't know. I know y'all are in New York City, so you may not have a Cracker Barrel, at the local I-75 exit like we did in Michigan. But, you go to Cracker Barrel and you see the same thing. You see the rocking chairs, you see, all of the goods inside the store before you even get to the restaurant. And it's uniform. It's incredible. It really is something there. So I think that there is some brand confusion. Like, why are we changing this? This always works. This is what we come for. Look, well, I go to Cracker Barrel, I get the pancakes because the pancakes have a nice golden crust around from all the butter, and the syrup is fantastic. And I just expect that from Cracker Barrel. But when you do things like this, it makes consumers jump a little bit, especially when, you do such a dramatic logo change like they proposed.
But Tim, in your opinion, is old-fashioned still fashionable nowadays, especially among, the younger folk?
I think it is. I really do. I think that there is a resurgence, especially among millennials who now are starting to have those kids. The kids are growing up a little bit, eating more at restaurants. They're no longer ordering from the kids' menu. Look, going out to eat at your local artisan restaurant with expensive prices and $20 cocktails no longer cuts it for millennials who are trying to avoid credit card debt. So they look to old staples like Cracker Barrel, maybe like an Applebee's or like an Olive Garden as something that's good, but you can also get a meal for under, $20. A good meal, a substantial meal for under $20. And so I don't think that the old time reputation that you get when you see Cracker Barrel is the problem. I think it's the how much are you changing the thing that I'm used to, and how am I still going to be able to get the same meal for a low price like I was? That's the most important thing, I think, to younger people.
And Tim, let me get your comments on the discussion surrounding this move itself and the overall cultural climate, because President Trump even joined in the conversation, and he posted a meme about it, and we can probably show that right now, of him leaning against a oil barrel, which is sort of a play on the logo of Cracker Barrel, right? Maybe you can comment on that, and as well as what do you think is the cultural climate right now relevant to this issue?
This is such a great question because it just shows you what a cultural phenomena that Cracker Barrel has been. Yeah, there's the photo right there. That's fantastic. It just shows you that people, you don't have to spend much time in America before you see a Cracker Barrel and before you resonate. I mean, that is America. And so I think that President Trump weighing in is standing up for those institutions that have traditionally been a part of America. And it's not even political, it has nothing to do with that. It's just simply, this is a part of our culture. This is something that we are proud of, and we should probably fight for things like that. And I want to say this too. If ever you learn the name of a CEO of a company like Cracker Barrel, you're probably doing something wrong. And we saw Cracker Barrel roll out their CEO on ABC Morning and Good Morning America, talking about the rebranding, defending the rebranding. I'm sorry, once you've reached that level, once I've learned your name, once I've seen your face, you got to backtrack it. And I think that they learned that lesson.
Right. I mean, you make an important point there. I wonder if Cracker Barrel could have avoided the backlash because, some people, they just don't like change no matter what.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, look, I mean, again, I'm going back and I'm sorry to keep hammering this, but if you have a Cracker Barrel pancake, or if you have the biscuits, or if you have mashed potatoes, or if you have all the great stuff there, it's really, really difficult to say, okay, well, I'm open to whatever else is new on the menu or whatever else. I mean, it is an incredible experience. And it sings of the culture of the South here in America and of the heartland. And that's part of the area that President Trump has excelled at so well at resonating with. And so this is the cultural thing. And I think that they've rightfully backtracked, and kudos to them for doing that.
Okay, Tim, just one last thing. What do you think other companies should take away from this?
I think other companies need to understand that if they have a brand that people rely on, if they love, they should make sure that they always, again, put the customer first. The customer is always right. That is the key to success in America because this is the market. And by the way, look, if you want to change your logo, fine. There's nothing saying that you shouldn't do that. There's no law. President Trump didn't say, we're going to take action at the federal. No, he didn't say that. Simply commentating on the fact that there is a backlash against this. And to honor the customer and to honor the dollars that the customers bring to your store, maybe you should pay attention to it. Maybe you should see them as right.
Well, all right, Tim. It's always great to have you. We have such great conversations. Thank you.
Love it. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
You as well. Coming up, Google is investing $9 billion into Virginia's artificial intelligence infrastructure. As part of the funding, students will have access to AI tools and education. Don't go away.
Is deep-sea fish oil really healthy? Due to pollution in the oceans, most fish contain heavy metal elements and radioactive substances. That's why it's so important to choose a pure source of omega-3. Puritang green vegetable omega-3 is made from purslane and perilla seeds, which are rich in nutrients and minerals, especially vitamins A, D, E, calcium, and iron. With natural processing and no harmful chemical additives, it has more than 90% concentration of omegas 3, 6, 7, and 9. It effectively improves brain power and is beneficial to the heart's health. Puritang omega-3 does not smell of fish and contains no pollutants, so both adults and children can safely and easily consume it over a long period of time. Puritang green vegetable omega-3, greener, healthier, and more effective. Visit puritang.com to learn more.
You are not hidden. There's never been a moment you were forgotten. You are not hopeless. Though you have been broken, your innocence stolen. I hear your SOS, your SOS. I will send out an army to find you in the middle of the darkest night. It's true, I will rescue you.
On streets across America, young people are homeless, abused, in danger. Covenant House is helping young people with nowhere else to turn. But the need is overwhelming. Please call or go online now with your gift of $19 a month. You'll help provide hot meals, safe shelter, medical care, and love to more than 2,000 young people who sleep at a Covenant House every night. Homeless young people are afraid and alone. Your monthly donation right now will show them they are loved and safe.
I have no words to express how Covenant House changed my life.
Call or go online now and give just $19 a month. We'll send you this comforting blanket as a reminder of the difference you're making in a young person's life. Call or go online now to safeplacetosleep.org.
Today, Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin announced that Google will invest $9 billion in the state through 2026. The funds will go toward cloud and artificial intelligence infrastructure. The investment will pay for the development of a new data center in Chesterfield County. The funding will also go toward the expansion of 2 existing facilities. Youngkin called the investment, quote, a powerful endorsement of our Commonwealth's leadership in the AI economy. As part of Google's commitment, all Virginia-based college students will have free access to Google's AI Pro plan for 12 months. Students will also receive AI training and job search support. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says the Trump administration is not considering a stake in chipmaker NVIDIA. Bessent had more to say during an interview this morning with Fox Business.
I don't think NVIDIA needs financial support. That seems not on the table right now, but could there be other industries where that we're reshaping, something like shipbuilding, that sure, there could be things like that. And these are critical industries that we have to be self-sufficient in the United States.
Bessent's interview follows the Trump administration's 10% stake in chipmaker Intel. The Treasury Secretary's comments also come ahead of NVIDIA's quarterly report set for release this afternoon. NVIDIA became the first publicly traded company to surpass a market value of $4 trillion last month. The chipmaker stock price has gained another 13% since then, creating an additional $500 billion in shareholder value. The office of the governor of Nevada said yesterday that a cyber attack caused a 2-day closure to the state's offices and caused some state websites and phone lines to be unavailable. The attack was identified on Sunday with no evidence that personal information was compromised. Officials have not released any technical details as the incident is still under investigation. State employees were put on administrative leave Monday, with many returning to work yesterday as computer systems are brought back online. Emergency services remain unavailable, but individual state agencies will announce when their countries, or their counters rather, will be reopened for in-person service. Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook says she will sue the Trump administration to prevent her firing. Cook says her removal over alleged mortgage fraud is illegal. Here's the latest.
A lawyer for Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook announced Tuesday that Cook was filing a lawsuit to prevent her removal. President Trump says Cook must go, accusing her of misrepresenting mortgage documents.
She seems to have had an infraction, and she can't have an infraction, especially that infraction, because she's in charge of, if you think about it, mortgages, and we need people that are 100% above board, and it doesn't seem like she was.
The allegations stem from a referral letter by Federal Housing Finance Agency Chairman Bill Pulte, who accused Cook of listing 2 homes as her primary residence to secure better loan terms. But Cook argues she's done nothing to warrant her removal and says Trump doesn't have the authority to fire her anyway. At a cabinet meeting Tuesday, Trump suggested he already has someone in mind to replace Cook.
I think I maybe in my own mind have somebody that I like. We're dealing with a lot of people, actually, that are going to be involved in that decision. Ultimately, it's a very important decision.
The Federal Reserve says Cook remains a sitting governor until the courts decide otherwise. Trump said he would abide by that ruling.
I abide by the court, yeah. I abide by the court.
For now, markets are watching closely. Analysts warn political pressure on the Fed could undermine its independence. This isn't the first time Fed officials have faced scrutiny. In 2021, Dallas Fed President Robert Kaplan and Boston Fed President Eric Rosengren both resigned after questions about personal trading, though neither is found to have broken rules. Other top officials, including Vice Chair Richard Clarida, also stepped down amid ethics concerns tied to financial disclosures.
A U.S. district judge ruled today that Kilmar Abrego Garcia cannot be removed from the U.S. for at least several more weeks. The judge wants the Trump administration to testify in early October about its efforts to re-deport him. An evidentiary hearing is set for October 6th. It's the latest court action in this case after the administration wrongly sent Abrego Garcia to a prison in El Salvador this year, and the Supreme Court demanded it facilitate his return. Since Abrego Garcia has been back in the U.S., his lawyers have renewed a bid for his asylum. In a separate case, the Trump administration is charging Abrego Garcia with human smuggling, which he denies. ICE is hiring, and more than 100,000 people are applying. A 2-day job fair in Texas to recruit deportation officers and attorneys drew a packed parking lot of eager applicants and a group of protesters as well. NTD's Daniel Monahan has more on the recruiting push and a new border security update from Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem.
The event at Esports Stadium in the Dallas area began Tuesday. It's part of the Trump administration's effort to expand ICE ranks and strengthen border security and deportation efforts. Earlier this month, the Department of Homeland Security removed age limits for recruits, opening the door for qualified retirees. ICE is offering incentives, including signing bonuses up to $50,000, student loan repayment, overtime pay, and enhanced retirement benefits.
ICE is great. They do a lot of great things. They bust drugs, child exploitation. There's a lot of great things that ICE does. It's not just what you're seeing on the media. So that's what I want to be a part of.
This is a highly desired career, especially amongst those who are currently in law enforcement. But a lot of people want to do this job.
Potential recruits at the Arlington Job Fair were greeted by protesters yelling at those driving by.
ICE to stop them, got to go, hey, hey. Because I work with immigrants and I'm married to an immigrant. And so it just sickens me, like what is happening in our country. And because I'm an American citizen, I need to stand up for them.
The Dallas Job Fair is part of a nationwide recruitment drive under DHS's Defend the Homeland campaign, funded through the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, which provided $30 billion for ICE hiring and training. Meanwhile, at Tuesday's cabinet meeting, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem updated President Trump on border enforcement.
We've got 3 months in a row now with 0 illegal aliens coming into this country. You've arrested and brought to justice hundreds of thousands of illegal aliens, but criminals that have perpetuated violence against American people.
We had millions and millions of people coming in. To think 3 months in a row, 0.
Noem told the president that he followed through on his promise to make America safe again, saying the average American is now safer than they've been in years due to his actions.
Sir, you've had 1.6 million people voluntarily go home to their home countries that were here in this country illegally. Because of your strong message and you enforcing the law, they decided to go home on their own so that they could come back the right way someday.
Noem says the crackdown has saved taxpayers billions, adding that job growth for American citizens versus foreign-born individuals is around 2.5 million. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem announced yesterday that Border Patrol and ICE agents have made 5,000 arrests in Los Angeles since June. The 5,000th arrest was a man identified as an illegal immigrant from Mexico convicted of drug trafficking and an aggravated felony. Secretary Noem also said that LA rioters would not stop DHS or slow them down, and that anyone who lays a hand on a law enforcement officer would be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Coming up after the break, a trade clash with India. President Trump's tariff hike just kicked in at midnight, doubling duties on many imports as Washington pressures New Delhi over its oil ties to Russia. An economist weighs in after the break.
I debate all day. It's what I do. But there are some things that are undebatable, like your mental health, my own mental health. I was in a dark place when my brother passed away in a car accident. I've never been more devastated than the day I lost my mom. I was depressed, miserable, in ways I never imagined. I reached out, and my sisters came. My pastor, my therapist. They helped me get through it. I found that the more I spoke up, the healthier my mind became. The chaos that was in me began to subside. I was more focused, clear. When you love your mind, you can go so much further. That's not up for debate. Find mental health resources at loveyourmindtoday.org.
My name's Stacy, I'm 57, and I was adopted in 2020.
We were adopted in 2019.
And we were adopted in 2021.
We had a house, and it sounds crazy, but it wasn't a home. The one thing that Jake and Emma brought is it became a home.
When I met Dakota, he had just turned 14.
You weren't there for the first this and the first that. I missed the first words, but we got a lot of other firsts.
Watching her say, oh my God, I cannot believe I got my license. And she's like, I passed. And I'm like, girl.
See them grow. It is.
They chose to love us. They didn't have to. They chose us. Family.
You and you. Kids in the middle.
What I thought was a complete life was nowhere near complete, but it is now.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org.
My 15-year-old son, Ethan, and I had a fun and relaxing morning. We returned home, and Ethan walked to his best friend's house an hour later. I heard the ambulance scream by the street, carrying my beautiful boy. Ethan was shot in the head in his best friend's house with an unsecured gun. He had 0 chance of survival. The father, the gun owner, he stored his 3 guns and bullets in a shoebox.
How do you feel?
That has to be the most horrific experience that a human could ever have.
David, would you give any advice?
First thing you do is not keep your ammunition with your weapons, and that your weapons need to be locked at all times.
the countdown is over for India. An additional 25% tariff on the country has officially kicked in. That brings the total rate to 50% on many imports entering the United States. President Trump implemented the additional 25% tariff on India in an August 6th executive order. Trump said India is currently directly or indirectly importing Russian Federation oil. India has been one of Russia's most significant trading partners since it invaded Ukraine in 2022. Annual bilateral trade between the two countries is almost $70 billion. Energy has been the primary product uniting the two countries for the past few years. India accounts for an estimated 1/3 of Russia's petroleum exports, fueled by a sanction-driven discount. Trump says India has been exploiting discounted Russian crude to sell it on the open market for big profits. India's government has dismissed these criticisms, saying the purchases are aimed at providing its huge population with affordable energy. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent weighed in on U.S.-India relations this morning on Fox News. Take a listen.
President Trump and Prime Minister Modi have very good relationships at that level. And it's not just over the Russian oil. The Indians came in very early after Liberation Day to start negotiating on tariffs, and we still don't have a deal. I thought that we would have a deal in May, June. I thought India could be one of the earlier deals. And they've kind of tapped us along in terms of the negotiations. And then there is also the aspect of the Russian crude purchases, which they've been profiteering on. So there are many levels going on here.
Bessent said yesterday that revenues from President Trump's tariffs could top $500 billion a year. Bessent told a cabinet meeting that earlier estimates of $300 billion were too low and said there had been a substantial jump in collections over the past 2 months. The Treasury says that figures from Monday show it collected nearly $30 billion in customs and excess taxes this month, matching July's total with more than a week to go. The Congressional Budget Office now estimates that Trump's tariffs could shrink federal deficits by up to $4 trillion over the next decade. Joining us now to discuss President Trump's 50% tariff on India, which took effect today, is Daniel Lacalle. He's the chief economist at Tresses and international financial analyst. Daniel, always great to see you. How are you doing today?
Doing very well. Thank you very much, Don. Always a pleasure.
So what do you think here? How will 50% tariffs affect India's economy? We'll start there. How much of an impact will it have?
Well, let's start with why the 50% tariffs, because we must understand that it is not true that India is purchasing more Russian oil because it provides cheap or affordable energy for India. A lot of the companies that are buying cheap Russian oil are then origin washing and redelivering it to other countries, either refined or directly changing the barrels with a different bill of lading. So this is an important factor that Secretary of State Scott Bessent has said very, very clearly, the profiteering factor. Second, therefore, the impact on the Indian economy is going to be very limited, because we must understand that in terms of the price of crude oil in long-term contracts, the difference between purchasing oil from the United States or from any of the safe suppliers relative to the cost of purchasing Russian oil is not very different in long-term contracts. No, so it's very important for India to come back to the table. As Secretary of State Mr. Bessent said, they were supposed to be the easiest and quickest deal, and it's and the country, the government is dragging its feet for nobody knows which reasons, because the impact on the Indian economy could shed about 0.5% of its growth only because of the increase in tariffs and the reduction in international trade.
So Daniel, in your view, would you say India's oil purchases are funding Russia's war in Ukraine?
Oh, absolutely. Not just India's purchases. The European Union's, Chinese purchases are funding the war in Ukraine. The level of exports of the Russian economy is absolutely phenomenal. It's about $33 billion a month, and the level of exports of crude oil, natural gas, coal, etc., to its main trading partners is at record levels in volume terms. Therefore, what we must understand is that one of the big risks of what is happening right now is that these exports to other countries are partially financing the enormous expenditure in defense that the Russian government is implementing. Let's remember that the Russian government has more than doubled its defense budget, that the main trading partner in terms of military technology is China, and that these gigantic exports of crude oil are certainly part of the reason why the Russian economy continues to build a war chest that is absolutely phenomenal. So obviously this is a problem, but it's also a problem because it's unfair. And I think that that's the reason why the Trump administration is focusing on India, is that it makes no sense for India to multiply its imports of Russian oil. I'm not saying that they would have eliminated all of the imports of Russian oil, and sanctions are always a very difficult thing because they never truly work. But that's not the factor. The factor is that it makes absolutely no sense that India has gone from being a moderate importer of Russian crude oil to being one of the largest importers of Russian crude oil, and that's not because of the growth of demand.
Okay, so it seems like then India is now faced with a decision, right? Either take a hit from tariffs or not buy Russian oil. Do you think these tariffs will deter India from Russian oil?
Oh, I think it's inevitable. I think that there is no other option, because if India does not come back to the table, start a negotiation that will deliver a strong trade deal that everybody was expecting. I think that any economist that is watching right now, or any person that is informed, must be truly surprised at the fact that India has not signed a trade deal when the European Union, the UK, Philippines, Vietnam, South Korea, Japan, all these countries have signed a trade deal. It seems like India sort of wants to, the Indian government, not India, but that the Indian government wants to sort of prove that it can sustain its economic growth model with a position that is of confrontation against the United States. And that is impossible. It is truly impossible. And let's remember that India is a country that is going to go between 6 to 6.5% in the next years, because among things, it will continue to affect the United States. So I think that India needs to really come back to see and deliver what is, in my opinion, a trade deal that everybody expected.
Okay, just building on your point, Daniel, perhaps you can also comment on the fact that the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi is to meet the Chinese regime leader Xi Jinping in a few weeks. Can you talk to us about what that means for perhaps its relationship with the United States, where it stands right now?
Well, it's a very difficult situation between the Indian government and the Chinese government, because they're, on the one hand, they seem to be partners and they're part of the BRICS, but at the same time, the Indian government spends almost every week saying over and over again that they're going to overtake China, that China is going to lose manufacturing and it's going to go to India, etc. So it's a very, very, very complicated situation between those two countries.
Okay, Daniel, one last question, and maybe you can also speak to President Trump's strategy here. So tariffs, do you think, should they play a permanent role in U.S. policy, or should it primarily serve as a short-term bargaining tool in trade negotiations?
I think both. I think that the trading environment globally is quite challenging, and that one of the things that we have seen with all these trade deals is that a lot of countries are not going to reduce or eliminate their non-tariff barriers. Let's remember, please, that India is one of the countries in the world with the highest level of non-tariff barriers, coincidentally alongside Brazil, Russia, India, obviously, and South Africa. It's interesting that it is the BRICS nations that have maintained the highest levels of trade barriers in the world. Therefore, I think that the United States administration is going to have to continue to play with tariffs on the in the current way, in a way in which, on the one hand, forces other countries to eliminate their barriers, and at the same time is maintained in order to keep that balance of trade as at least just as possible.
All right, Daniel, always great to talk to you. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you very much. Always a pleasure.
An opening ceremony today for Europe's largest munitions plant. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte was there at the German weapons maker's new facility. He explained why Rheinmetall is so important.
And this is exactly what we need to ensure the prosperity and security of our economies and societies across Europe and North America, especially at a time when we are aggressively being challenged. Russia and China are expanding their militaries and their capabilities at speed and scale with little transparency.
Rutte noted that the plant's opening comes just 2 months after NATO leaders agreed to invest 5% of GDP into defense. The Secretary General thanked Germany for taking a lead role on this and pledging $150 billion in defense spending by 2029. Rheinmetall broke ground early last year on its 300,000 square foot facility in northern Germany. Rutte applauded the company's quick 14-month timeline for opening. Once fully operational, the factory will have the capacity to make up 350,000 rounds per year. The investment totaled about $580 million and will create more than 500 jobs at the site. Germany has been rearming itself after Russia invaded Ukraine in 2022. This also comes as President Trump has urged European countries to take more responsibility for its own defense. China today rejected President Trump's call for the country to limit its nuclear arsenal by joining nuclear disarmament negotiations with the United States and Russia. A spokesperson of Chinese Foreign Ministry said Trump's proposal is unreasonable and unrealistic, citing the different sizes of nuclear arms of the two countries. President Trump said on Monday he had discussed nuclear arms control with Russian President Putin and wanted China to be involved too. He said China would catch up to the U.S. nuclear arsenal in 5 years. The U.S. Navy is conducting 2 drills in the South China Sea, one in the Philippines and the other in Indonesia. The goal is to align Asian partners to counter China's aggressiveness in the South China Sea. A Chinese national has been charged for stealing U.S. cancer research and taking it to China. The Harris County District Attorney's Office in Texas announced the charges on Monday. Yunhai Li worked as a researcher at MD Anderson Cancer Center on a vaccine against breast cancer. He was in the U.S. on a research scholar exchange visa. His research was funded through the National Institutes of Health and the Department of Defense. But at the same time, he secretly worked for a Chinese university and didn't disclose the conflict of interest to U.S. authorities. U.S. Customs and Border Protection caught him with sensitive medical information as he was trying to board a flight to China in July. Li faces 1 charge of theft of trade secrets and 1 charge of tampering with a government record. He could face up to 11 years in prison if convicted. Denmark's foreign minister summoned the U.S. diplomat in the country today over concerns of influence operations in Greenland. On Wednesday, public broadcaster DR reported at least 3 Americans with connections to President Trump have been involved in the effort. The outlet cited unnamed government sources in its reporting. DR said it had been unable to clarify whether the Americans are working on their own initiative or on orders from someone else. Trump made overtures to purchase Greenland during his second term. Denmark and Greenland have said the island is not for sale. Iran and 3 European powers restarted nuclear negotiations yesterday. Europe warns it could trigger UN sanctions if Tehran doesn't cooperate. NTD International correspondent David Vivez reports from Paris.
Iran and the 3 European powers, the UK, France and Germany, have agreed to resume nuclear negotiations. This decision comes as the Europeans threaten to reimpose UN sanctions through the snapback mechanism if Tehran refuses to return to the negotiating table. The United States and its allies suspect Iran of seeking to develop nuclear weapons, although the International Atomic Energy Agency and US intelligence have found no concrete evidence so far. Talks were suspended after Israeli-American strikes on Iranian nuclear sites in June. Since then, the IAEA inspectors have no longer had access to Iranian facilities. Despite this, dialogue is ongoing between Iran and the IAEA. According to Executive Director of the International Bar Association, Europeans have set their priorities.
I think the European leaders will understand that the nuclear issue is critically important, and if they can negotiate an agreement with Iran on that particular issue, I think that will be a success.
Observers in Iran report new waves of arrests and executions since the U.S. strikes on nuclear facilities. The crackdown comes as the political power of the mullahs appears weaker than before. Ellis says Western leaders must keep this in mind and hold Tehran accountable.
This is just an ongoing policy. It's never been a one-off policy. It's a strategy to bring fear to Iranians in Iran and outside Iran, that the authorities say we will repeat what we did in 1988. And that's exactly what they're doing now, which is why it's so critical that the international community continues to speak out for what is yet another wave of massive atrocities being committed by the government.
The snapback deadline expires in October, but the Financial Times says Europeans may extend it if Iran resumes talks with Washington and the IAEA. David Vives, NTD News, Paris.
Coming up after the break, the FDA places new restrictions on 3 COVID vaccines. The jabs will still be available to high-risk individuals, but ends their emergency use authorization. We have that and more when we come back.
£6 prescription glasses from Select Specs are always great value. There are no offer codes or first-time customers only. Anyone can buy them, anytime. And you can upgrade to Select Specs Express for next-day delivery. And with deferred payments, you can spread the cost.
See now, pay later with Select Specs £6 specs. Next day delivery and deferred payment options available at selectspecs.com/£6.
Hi, I'm Ty Pennington, here for Choice Home Warranty. They protect my home from expensive repairs, and they can do the same for you. No matter if it's your refrigerator, plumbing, or more than 20 other home systems and appliances, Choice Home Warranty has saved millions of homeowners a whole lot of money. For a low monthly fee, you get their nationwide network of trusted local technicians with plans that cover repairs and replacements done quickly and the right way. No more headaches searching for technicians. No more budget-breaking chaos. Just a peace of mind of having Choice Home Warranty at your service. Call Choice Home Warranty now and save big with their special offer of your first month free and free limited roof coverage. Call now.
Call Choice Home Warranty for your free personalized quote and to get your first month free. Call in the next 5 minutes, and as our special offer, you'll receive free limited roof coverage. Call now to lock in your rate and save big.
Call 800-210-9106. 800-210-9106.
I'm Jonathan Lawson. If you're 50 to 85, please listen closely. The lock I want to talk to you about isn't the one on your door. It's a rate lock for your life insurance that guarantees that once you're insured, your rate can never go up at any time for any reason. Many policies you see don't have one, but you can get a lifetime rate lock from Colonial Penn. This plan was designed for people on a fixed income with coverage options that start at $9.95 a month. That's less than 35 cents a day. Your rate is locked in for life. Coverage can never be canceled, and your acceptance is guaranteed. You cannot be turned down because of your health. See for yourself. Call for an information kit and gift. Both are free with no obligation.
Call 1-800-624-6556 for your free information and your free gift. That's 1-800-624-6556. 1-800-624-6556. Call now.
Shenyun Creations, the streaming platform from Shenyun, featuring world-class dance, past programs, and all original music. Masterclasses, behind the scenes, comedy, and more. Explore shenyuncreations.com.
The FDA has approved updated COVID-19 vaccines. At the same time, the agency will also limit their use for some Americans. The new shots from Pfizer, Moderna, and Novavax are approved for all seniors. The FDA has also narrowed their use for high-risk younger adults and children with asthma, obesity, and other conditions. Health and Human Services Secretary RFK Jr. posted about the decision on X. The HHS secretary said he was delivering on his promises to end COVID vaccine mandates while keeping the vaccines available. He also said his agency would demand placebo-controlled trials from drug companies and end emergency authorization for COVID vaccines. His post read, quote, "The American people demanded science, safety, and common sense. This framework delivers all three." The Transportation Secretary Administration has crowned its top dog. And I hope you still remember Steeler, a security dog from Pittsburgh, took the win as the cutest canine. The people have spoken. The canine received the most social media votes in the TSA's national contest for cutest canine, beating nearly 100 other four-legged challengers. He topped the final round of competition against 3 other dogs. Steeler is a 2.5-year-old Labrador named after the city's football team. He specializes in explosives detection. The TSA notes when he's not helping keep air travelers safe, Steeler likes to play fetch and chew on a tug rope. He also likes to eat jumbo hot dogs. Coming up, as U.S. adversaries flex their military cooperation, the Trump administration readies changes to the Department of Defense, how they will reflect an offensive posture to national security. We have that and more when we come back.
So at the age of 5, I was sexually molested. I had my first child at the age of 15 and became homeless at the age of 16. The scariest part about not having a place to live was having a child and not having a place to live and not knowing where our meal was going to come from and where we're going to sleep. To be homeless as a teen, I didn't ask for that.
No young person should ever have to worry about having a safe place to sleep at night, or a warm meal to eat, or whether anyone cares about them. 1 in 10 young adults will experience a form of homelessness this year, and that's unacceptable. But the good news is there is an organization making a big difference, Covenant House.
Call or go online now. For a gift of only $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, you can provide hot meals, safe shelter, medical care, and love to more than 2,000 young people who sleep at a Covenant House every night.
For over 50 years, Covenant House has been helping youth in crisis.
It was pretty tough. But Covenant House really helped me and really helped mold me into the woman I am today.
Call or go online right now to safeplacetosleep.org with your gift of just $19 a month. With your monthly donation, you'll receive this soft, comforting blanket as a reminder of the warmth and safety your gift will provide a young person tonight.
I have no words to express how Covenant House changed my life, They gave me the love that I needed. They just really genuinely just wanted to help me succeed, and I'm succeeding.
Your $19 monthly gift is urgently needed to reach other young people who are facing unimaginable situations.